Yes, sir. All right. Here we go. Here we go again. Man, so I'm a little late. I'm a little late tonight. I was trying to put together some clips as always. We got some clips to review for this conversation. I was trying to put together some information. You see the title and you see the thumbnail. Tonight we're talking about, the delineation between immigrants and tethers. Now, this term tethers is a relatively new term that we in the foundational Black American descendants of slaves, reparations, delineation movement have started using to distinguish the good folks who come from different countries who come to America and support us as we have supported them historically. Those would be the good legal immigrants in America. And we've got to start to distinguish them from the tethers. The tethers are the folks who come here thanks to the foundation and thanks to the platform that we have provided here in America to allow a lot of these immigrants to come into the country. They get here and undermine us. But all immigrants are not tethers. All immigrants are not tethers. So we've got to have an understanding of the difference. What is the difference between immigrants and tethers? All immigrants are not tethers, but the tethers must be addressed. The tethers must be checked because the tethers are very dangerous. They're very dangerous because a lot of them have black skin. They have melanin, so they can blend in with us. It's one thing when white folks say, "Oh, you don't deserve reparations," because they have a history of racism. So it's easy to call them out for that point of view, for that perspective, which is just a continuation of their ancestors in an effort to deny justice to Black Americans. But it's a little bit more difficult as far as images go. As far as images go, when you see someone with black skin, someone with melanin who lives here in America saying that Black Americans don't deserve reparations, then the question comes, who is this guy? Who is this guy who would deny his own ancestors? Oh, they're not denying our ancestors or their ancestors. They're denying our ancestors justice. They're denying us justice because they don't identify with us. Because, in the words of the 21st century philosopher Kendrick Lamar, they not like us. Now, one thing about foundational Black Americans that I can say I'm proud of, me, especially myself, as someone who's traveled the world, who's lived, not just traveled and visited. I've lived in other countries. I've lived in, China. I've lived in Mozambique, one of the poorest countries in Africa. Been to South Africa, Ethiopia, Russia, lived in Canada, right? I've been all around the world. And one thing about me as a foundational Black American is I would never go to another person's country and tell the indigenous populations there what they do and don't deserve. I would never move to Haiti and tell the Haitians that they don't deserve reparations from the French. That's just not in Black Americans' lexicon. That's just not something that we do. Whenever we as Black Americans go abroad, including my own history and myself, we go over to other countries with the intentions of helping and showing love to the native populations. We don't go to other people's countries and tell the downtrodden and tell the meek of the group, tell the least of these that they don't deserve any assistance. That's not something that we do. But that's something that is very common here in America. Now, before we get into the conversation, give a quick shout out to Brandon Sophia. He's saying immigrants, legal or migrants, I guess that means illegal, border crossing violators. Of course, when I'm saying immigrants, I'm referring to the legal immigrants, right? We're talking about legal immigration, legal immigrants. Thanks for that question, Brandon. One more. He says, I think it is unfair to not give credence to those doing things right. That's right. I would agree with you. I think that it's important that the American border laws be strongly enforced. I think that we don't have a nation without borders. I don't believe in open borders. So I do believe that legal immigration is the only reasonable or understandable or legitimate form of immigration. Illegal immigration is not what I'm talking about tonight. Tonight, I'm talking about the legal immigrants, and some tethers are legal immigrants. Let's not get it twisted. This is not a conversation of legal immigration versus illegal immigrants, because some tethers are legal immigrants, and some. So here I'm differentiating the legal immigrants who support foundational Black Americans, the legal immigrants who support the people who have historically supported them, and differentiating them from the folks who come from these foreign backgrounds, whether it be legally or illegally, come to America to undermine us, which is something that we as Black Americans don't do. We don't go to Africa, South Africa, and tell the South Africans, "Oh, don't listen to Julius Malema, don't listen to pro-African voices in South Africa." We wouldn't go to South Africa. I've been to South Africa. I've been to Johannesburg. I've been to Cape Town. I've been to Pretoria, right? I've been throughout South Africa. I could tell you some things that I did with the native populations there, but I was showing love there. I was showing love there. I was a bridge when I went to South Africa, and I can show you all some pictures of that if we have time later on in this video. But I wouldn't go to South Africa and tell the South Africans, "Oh, you all have no reason to want to redistribute the wealth and land in South Africa." No, if I don't know enough about it, it's none of my business. I'm not going to speak on it at all. I'm going to either say something to uplift the Black folks in South Africa, or I'm just going to be quiet and stay out of it altogether. But I'm not going to go to South Africa and undermine the Black South Africans in South Africa. That's just not something that Black Americans do. But that's something that we see all too often here in America. You know, this is one of the real reasons that spurred me to even make this channel, Fry Time Media, is the fact that I was living abroad at the time when I first started this channel. I was living in China, and I was making videos because in 2020 is when 2022 I kind of started taking things seriously. But I started uploading, I'd say in 2020 during COVID and all that stuff. And this is when I started looking at the situation that was here in America as I was ramping up to come back to America, where I am now. All right. So I could see in contrast the way that I treated folks when I was living abroad versus the way that people who come to my country in America treat us. This is one of the biggest reasons that I'm a big supporter of reparations and lineage-based reparations and delineation. Delineation is important because, and I saw the need for this because I've lived abroad. I can speak as an immigrant who has immigrated to another country, who has lived in other countries, multiple other countries. And I don't treat the natives of other countries the way that people come to America and treat us. Perfect example, and I'm glad you said that, Brandon. Perfect example. This is a historic thing. Foundational Black Americans, whenever we reach out, the whole Pan-African movement, whenever we reach out to native populations in other countries, downtrodden countries, Black countries, we've always done our best to uplift these folks. For example, let's not forget Ethiopia. Ethiopia, when they were going to war with Italy, Mussolini, and Haile Selassie was going to war with Mussolini in Italy, it was a lot of Black Americans signing up to fight that war. Ethiopia had nothing to do with us when we were here in America. When Italy was fighting Ethiopia, Black Americans had nothing to gain by supporting Ethiopia. And yet, what did we see? What did we see? This is 1935. Ethiopian volunteers register here. We see long lines of African Americans, foundational Black Americans. What's that sign say? Ethiopian volunteers register here. Long lines of Black Americans lining up to go overseas to fight for a country that we're not from, we've never even been to, we've never even heard of, to support the Black folks over there in Ethiopia.
225 East 149th Street.
225 East 129th Street.
149th Street.
Uh-huh. What's your age, Mr. Anderson?
37.
37. What is your weight?
150 pounds.
Height?
5'3".
So you can see, going back to 1935, we had an interest in this whole Pan-African movement, which a lot of folks are like Dr. Umar is trying to lift up now. We've been on that. Whenever it comes to Black Americans going to another country, we do our best to uplift the native populations of these foreign countries. This is what we do. This is what we do. We do our best to support the Black folks in these other countries. Going back to 1965, the Immigration Act of 1965, before that, the legislation prior to 1965, and we're going to touch on the Immigration Act of 1965, but prior to the Immigration Act of 1965, America had a quota system since 1922, I believe it was. Since 1922, America was operating in a quota system where immigrants from European nations and Canada were more readily allowed into the country. We had people coming from European nations, and we had some folks coming from Latin American nations. But there were very strict, very extremely strict quotas and bars of entry to Asian groups as well as Africans. Africans in particular had a 0 point quota, meaning less than 1%. They had a less than 1% quota on the African immigrants coming to America prior to the immigration of 1965. But we, as an addendum in par with the civil rights movement, it wasn't just about civil rights movement to benefit us. No, we fought for civil rights movements to benefit all melanated folks in order to address the 0 quota that the African immigrants were facing, in order to address the sub 5% immigration quotas that the Asians were facing. And Asians were less than 5% were allowed to come into the country. But in 1965, as part of the civil rights movement, foundational Black Americans fought for the right of these other folks, which had nothing to do with us. The Immigration Act of 1965 did not benefit us, but we fought for this Immigration Act of 1965 in the hopes and expectation that we would get ourselves reinforcements. We fought with the expectation that the immigrants would see the fight that we were facing. We would see that we had a common enemy in the white supremacists. And we believed that by fighting for these melanated groups from Africa, from Asia, we believed that these folks would come in, Asia being India, who was also facing extreme white supremacy from the British. We believe that these Asians and Africans, these melanated immigrants, would come over here and serve as reinforcements for us. That was our expectation in 1965. Before I play the next clip, let me read a couple more comments. Shout out Brandon. What's going on? He says a lot here. Did you try to teach English overseas? Hey, listen, I was doing a lot. Some Japanese Americans supported Black Panthers in the 60s and also agree that some Japanese Americans supported Black Panthers in the 60s. Okay, so some Japanese fought a war against America. Against America. What are you talking about? The Japanese are they supposed to be some form of savior for Black Americans? All right, let me finish the comment because I don't know where you're going with this. They agree that Black Americans deserve reparations as their fathers got for their treatment. And those folks, I agree with you there as far as the end of that statement, that some of those Japanese folks believe that we deserve reparations. Those folks, I'd be all good with them. We can click up and say, okay, y'all are legitimate. Y'all immigrants, the folks that we fought for in the 1965 Immigration Act that I'm about to go into, we gave y'all a path of citizenship. We gave y'all a way to come into the country. All right? So as they should. The descendants of those Japanese internment camps, they should be supporting us in our reparation movement just as they received their reparations. Now, you're saying a lot here, so I'm going to try and keep up here because I don't want to get too far off topic. Yes, I read that about African Americans going blindly to Ethiopia to fight Italian invasions of that country. I wouldn't say it was going blindly. We were really supportive of black folks. See, right now they're trying to push this whole colorism thing, and I might have to touch on that in a separate video. But that was something that a lot of these other groups got into because a lot of these other groups recognize the mulatto race, right? They recognize, like in South Africa, they have black, but then they also have colors. So they have some infighting based on colorism and mixed heritage. But here in America, we had the one drop rule. We had the one drop rule. If you have one drop of black blood in you, you're black. So we as black Americans, we sat back and we looked at, hey, Ethiopians, they're black. We don't see a difference. Now I could go and play videos of the Ethiopians in the 1960s and 70s during apartheid, which is crazy, saying that Ethiopians aren't black. And that might be a conversation for another day. Now, during apartheid, the Ethiopians were saying that they're not black, while us black Americans identify the Ethiopians as black and we're ready to put our lives on the line by going over there to fight wars with them. That is commendable of all those African Americans. That's right. I met a first generation Hong Kong Chinese lady that supports FBA to receive reparations. That's what I mean. And that's the point of this video. Because I've got a lot of friends who are immigrants, first and second generation immigrants. I've got friends who are Ethiopian, Cameroonian, Nigerian, I've got Haitian. I'm living in DC. So trust me, it's a melting pot. We've got a whole lot of immigrants. And a lot of them do support reparations. And that's why it's important that we not denigrate the immigrants. We in the delineation movement have an issue with the tethers, the people that come here to undermine us. But I do want to uplift. I want to uplift, I want to salute, and I want to shout out the immigrants who come here and support the claims for justice that we're currently fighting for. Last one from Brandon says, first generation American and Hong Kong Chinese descendant. I mean, absolutely. There's a lot of folks who are immigrants who come from all types of countries. China, Africa, South America. There's a lot of folks who are on code, who do recognize the struggle of the foundational black Americans. They recognize the progress that we've made over the decades and centuries. They recognize the fact that we have been nothing but an aid and supportive of all of their movements and all of their claims for justice. There's a lot of immigrants who are on code and supportive of us, and that's why I'm making this video to salute those guys, to salute the people who are supporting us, but have no necessary interest in our claim. Everyone doesn't qualify for reparations. Reparations isn't for racism and for all black people, but all black people should be supporting reparations, whether they qualify or not. Now let's get into this Immigration Act of 1965. Shout out and salute to Brandon Sophia for your comments. I'm going to play some videos and then I'll be sure to read more of y'all's comments as we go on throughout the night. But yeah, I do appreciate Brandon Sophia saying that because the point of this video is to salute and uplift the immigrants who are supportive of us. And we have to be clear that we as black Americans are not against all immigrants, especially not legal immigrants. We have an issue with the tethers, but there's a lot of immigrants that are not tethers. Now check out the history on this.
In a nation populated mainly by periodic waves of foreign immigration, since its early inception, generations of American legislators have challenged and oftentimes limited certain ethnic populations seeking entry into the United States, including the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. Other limiting bills included the Immigration Act of 1917, which established literacy requirements for immigrants arriving from Asia, and the Immigration Act of 1924, which banned Asian immigration entirely.
So think about what they're going through now. They had the Immigration Act, that Chinese Exclusion Act. They had the Immigration Act of 1924, which banned the Asian immigration entirely. Notice this documentary isn't even touching on the African quotas because if you think they were exclusionary towards the Asians, how do you think they were treating Africans in 1924?
While setting quotas on the number of immigrants allowed in from Eastern and Southern European nations. the later spawned by a xenophobic and quite racist belief that immigrants from these regions were simply too foreign for America. That all ended during the 1960s.
That
when
all
the
ended in the
U.S.
60s.
Congress passed the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, also known as the Hart-Celler Act, so named for the legislators who helped move the bill through both houses of Congress. Signed into law by President Lyndon Baines Johnson on December 1, 1965, the bill overturned the system of quotas set forth in the Immigration Act of 1924, which in turn opened up a new stream of inbound migration, primarily from Asia and Latin America, effectively altering the character and melting pot complexion of American immigration history.
Repeat after me. I hereby declare on oath that I renounce all allegiance and fidelity.
Combined with the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the Immigration and Nationality Act created a triumvirate of legislation spawned by the Civil Rights Movement, establishing a conscious attempt by American politicians to remove racial and national criteria from all aspects of American law. According to the Pew Research Center, in 1960, 84% of U.S. immigrants were born in Canada or Europe, while 9.5% came from Latin America and 3.8% from Asia. In 2017,
You see that? 90% came from came from Europe and Canada in 1960, prior to the Immigration Act of 1965. Less than 10% came from Latin America, and less than 5% came from Asia.
by contrast, 13.2% came from Canada or Europe, 50.4% from Latin America, and 27.4% from Asia.
But in 2017, 50% came from Latin America. Think about these demographics and how they're changing thanks to the ending of the racialized quotas, which were the law in 1924 up until the passing of the Immigration Act of 1965. So a lot of these groups from Latin America, they went from less than 10% of the immigration prior to 1965 and 1960. In 2017, they became 50%, whereas the European and Canadian immigrants are now less than 15%. Think about that change of demographics thanks to what? Thanks to the passing of the 1965 Immigration Act, which us foundational Black Americans fought for.
Asia, making the Immigration Act of 1965 an equalization milestone for immigrants in search of a better life.
All right. So I'm going to fast forward to today. All right, but I had to go back just to show Black Americans. I'm speaking from my own personal experience, and I'm speaking historically. We have a history of supporting other groups when it has no benefit to us. The 1965 Immigration Act did not benefit us directly. All of our family was already here. We didn't have a need for immigration in changing the immigration laws. That's not benefiting us. But we did this in expectation that the folks, once they got here, would return the favor. We expected that this would be reinforcements for us. Instead of having 90% of the immigrants coming from Europe and Canada, hint, hint, the pale skinned folks coming and dominating us, we thought, well, hey, this isn't working. How about we open the doors and allow some folks from Latin America? How about we've got the biggest diaspora group down there in Brazil, which is in Latin America. Why don't we open the door and let some folks from Mexico, which we helped free? Mind you, Mexico was a slave state. Right. Not Black Americans, but Black folks in Mexico fought for freedom in Mexico. Right? So we said, hey, why don't we let some of these folks from Mexico? Why don't we let some of these folks from Brazil? Why don't we let some of these folks from the Caribbean? You know, Marcus Garvey, Jamaica and them. Why don't we let some folks from Africa come over here and they have a common struggle? We have a common struggle. We're all fighting against white supremacy. Why don't we unite and allow some of these folks to come over here and help us out instead of being outnumbered by the Canadian and European immigrants. But fast forward to today, and we can see how that has helped. How is that? Where has that gotten us? Where has that line of thinking gotten us? Fast forward to today, and we see folks like this. Now, this is a woman running for Secretary of State in the state of Missouri. This woman is running for Secretary of State. She's getting involved in politics in a country which is not her home. Not her home, meaning she left her home country, comes here and gets involved in politics. That's something Black Americans wouldn't do. We're not going to go to her country. We're not going to Honduras or Venezuela, wherever the hell she's from. We're not going to Latin America and then telling the native populations what they do and don't deserve. But here this woman comes into America based on the foundational Black American legislation, which we passed in the 60s, the Immigration Act of 1965. She takes advantage of the Immigration Act that we helped pass. And what does she say?
Reparations from slavery and Black victimization is about to be shoved down our throats for the most wretched holiday in America.
The woman still has an accent. She has she the woman is fresh off the boat. She's a fob. She wasn't born and raised here. This woman came here from a foreign country utilizing the Immigration Act that we helped pass. She gets involved in politics in a state of Missouri in the U.S. Come to a foreign country, get involved in a foreign country's politics, and denigrates the Americans here. The people who were born, who built the country, and helped her to get here.
BLM raised millions, but what do they do for Black lives? It is outrageous to see people asking for reparations, even though they never went through slavery. These ungrateful people should be celebrated because they were born in the greatest nation to ever exist. Here's a tip: if you don't like America, finally, get the fuck out.
So you hear what she's saying? I can't play the tune in the background because I don't want to get a copyright strike. But she's calling us ungrateful. She's calling us ungrateful. She's calling us. She comes to our country, gets involved in politics in a country which is not her home, and tells us, the people who built the country, she calls us ungrateful.
For Black lives, it is outrageous to see people.
She says reparations is outrageous. Lady, nobody asked you to come here. Nobody asked you to be here. And you're going to tell us to come out, to get out? You're going to tell us, the people who built the country and passed the legislation to allow you to be here, and you're telling us to get out. Do you see the disrespect? Do you see the disrespect of these tethers? Now, this woman, I don't consider her an immigrant. She might be an immigrant and she might be here legally. I don't know and I don't care. The fact of the matter is, she left her home country to come to our country, which we were here from the start, which we helped build from the mud, clearing the bush when it was just a wilderness. We were here in the wilderness. We cleared the trees, cleared the bush, set up the roads, set up the railroads. We set the foundation. I'm talking about from the dirt. We built the country through years, decades, and centuries of sacrifice, blood, sweat, tears, and uncompensated labor. And this woman comes to the country which we built and tells us that if we don't like it, we can get out. Tells us that we are ungrateful. Now imagine me going to her country. Imagine me going to Brazil and telling the Black Brazilians that they don't deserve any reparations from the Portuguese. Listen, I'm not from Brazil. What the Black Brazilians in Brazil are fighting for is none of my business. If I did go to Brazil, I'm not getting involved. And if I did, it would be in support of them. I'm either going to support the native folks or I'm just going to stay out of it. But I'm not going to go to someone else's country and denigrate the native population there. I'm not going to go to Brazil and tell the Brazilians that they are ungrateful and they need to leave. What? Imagine that. Imagine me going to Venezuela, Argentina, Mexico, Peru, any Chile. I'm not going to any South American country. I'm not going to any Caribbean country. I'm not going to Jamaica. I'm not going to Virgin Islands. I'm not going to Barbados and then telling the people who live there that they're ungrateful and they can get out if they're not enjoying their time in the country. Who does that? But this is something that we see all too commonly. And this isn't just some random speaker. This is a lady who is running for office. She needs votes. This is a woman who is politically involved from a foreign country. She's coming to our country running for Secretary of State. How are you running for Secretary of State, but you're denigrating the people who you need votes from? You're denigrating the roots. You're denigrating Americans. Who goes to another country and denigrates the native populations? Because I don't see black Americans doing that. I don't see black Americans doing that. I don't see black Americans doing that. But see, here's the thing. Like I said, in 1965, we were all supportive, right? We supported Marcus Garvey. We fought on behalf of Ethiopia when they were fighting Italy. Gil Scott Heron, we were shouting out, bringing light and attention to the fight against apartheid that South Africa was going through up until the 90s. We were supportive of all these other groups, right? We supported Che. We supported down there in Cuba. We supported Cesar Chavez. We supported these other groups in Latin America and in Africa. We supported these other groups. But then they get here, and as I just showed, we've got folks who are politically active running for Secretary of State who are basing their entire campaign on crapping on us. And that's just one video I played, but go to her timeline. Go to this woman's timeline. She's got video after video. Miss I refuse to learn this woman's name. Miss Valentina Gomez. She's got video after video denigrating the black Americans who are here in the country where she is not even from. She's got video after video, whereas black Americans, whenever we speak on foreigners, we try to support them. We try to help out in Ethiopia. We try to help out, shine light in South Africa. We try to shine light and support the freedom fighters in Cuba, support the freedom fighters in Mexico. We try to support them, but they get here and denigrate us, right? We don't do that. But now, here in America, we've got some delineation to do. Now we see the Democrats trying to scare us. Oh, if you don't vote Democrat, they're going to take away your voting rights. They're going to make you show ID to vote. Black Americans have no problem getting ID. It's the illegal immigrants who are coming over here and can't get ID because they're here illegally. I live in D.C. They're passing legislation so that folks who are non-citizens here, legally or illegally, have the right to vote after 3 months. You come here in January, you can vote in November if you live in DC. If you live in DC, you live here in 90 days, you can vote for mayor, you can vote for city council, you can vote. They're giving voting rights here in DC, where I live, to illegal immigrants. And they're asking us why don't we support this? Well, we tried to support this. We tried to support it and it didn't help. Instead of coming here and acting as reinforcements, a lot of the tethers, and again, this video is differentiating the tethers from the immigrants. The tethers are the ones who gotten politically involved. The tethers are the ones who are loudly standing in opposition against reparation. And this video is a call to the immigrants, the good supporters, the riders who are immigrants, to stand up and be more vocal. I can play you video after video, and that's why I was late tonight. I could find video after video of immigrants crapping on black Americans, crapping on reparations, crapping on foundational black Americans. I can show you endless videos, but I can't find so many videos of the immigrants who are supporting reparations. It's hard to find. Those videos are hard to find. So tell me what we should do as black Americans when we see videos like this.
I will shift massive portions of federal law enforcement to immigration enforcement. And on day one, we will begin the largest domestic deportation operation in American history. We have no choice. We have no choice. You know who had the largest? General Dwight D. Eisenhower when he was president. Good general, good president. Please, I will shift massive portions of federal law enforcement.
All right, so we see Trump. We see Trump promising to start the largest deportation campaign, right, of this generation. That's what Trump is promising. Now, as Black Americans, are we supposed to fight against that? As Black Americans, is that supposed to motivate us to not vote for Trump? Are we supposed to fight on behalf of the immigrants? Huh? Because, hey, Trump deciding to deport mass deportations, that doesn't affect us. Everyone in my family, my mom, my dad, my sisters, hey, they're all here legally. They were born in America. So foundational Black Americans, they don't have to worry about getting deported, right? But foundational Black Americans, what are we supposed to fight against Trump and his deportation promises? Because if we're supposed to support the immigrants, how is this not working both ways? All right, I'd like to see what Miss Valentina Gomez has to say about that. She probably supports it because she's, is self-hating. That's a whole nother story. All right? All right? But there's a ton of immigrants. Oh, no, we can't vote for Trump because, we got to vote Biden because my cousin, I don't want mass deportations. Look, if y'all want this black and brown coalition, y'all want this coalition, y'all want one hand to wash the other. Well, we're shouting for reparations on this side, and y'all are quiet. I don't see y'all supporting us. I see people running for office actively denigrating the reparations movement. All right, I see immigrants, first generation immigrants, running for Secretary of State, actively fighting against reparations. But then you're going to tell us, oh, we should be concerned about Trump. I'm like, eh, eh. You feel me? You feel me? I'm seeing videos like this. This guy got mad. We know that last week was Juneteenth. A holiday which celebrates the freedom from slavery. That is the basis of Juneteenth. The fact that it was supposedly, not really, but it was when the folks down there in Texas found out that they were free after the Civil War. They found out that they were free in Galveston, Texas, and Juneteenth was established to celebrate freedom. Kendrick Lamar, the creator of They Not Like Us, They Not Like Us. Kendrick Lamar had a concert on Juneteenth and decided to have a whole bunch of black folks on stage celebrating freedom, celebrating our black heritage, Juneteenth. And the Hispanics got mad. They said this.
No, yeah, so basically, I feel like the Mexican people were underrepresented there last night.
I feel it. I can see that.
I can see that too, man. But
And a lot of people are telling me that I sound like bitter or something. Like, I'm not a rapper, fool. I'm not tripping about not being on stage. I'm saying, like,
So this dude is complaining, saying that the Latin Americans were underrepresented on Juneteenth. Listen, I'm not going to go to a Cinco de Mayo. I'm not going to go to a quinceañera, a Cinco de Mayo festival, and tell them, "Oh, it's not enough black folks here." Listen, it's not your event. It's not for you. It's not for you. This is Juneteenth. This is a black holiday, specifically a foundational Black American holiday. That's who it's for. Kendrick Lamar is well known. He's got Hebrew. He be shouting out the Hebrew Israelites. I think he's got some knowledge of self as far as the Hebrew Israelite side of the game. But he is well known delineation. He's standing on the delineation line. He's standing for foundational Black Americans. Kendrick Lamar is a rapper and he is standing on the delineation movement. They not like us. They not like us. That's Kendrick Lamar. So he has a Juneteenth holiday, and these folks are mad that they're not invited.
oh, Jeezy performed, I think, last night.
Yeah.
did he?
That would have been nice if he would have been on
Oh,
stage.
if he would have.
Now, maybe the young legend had something to do, so
Right.
he dipped.
Right. Because all the artists that did perform were up there.
Facts.
I respect it. Who was up there? I can't keep counting.
There was a lot of people that went, but think Jeezy was the only
person that didn't pop out? Or were you gonna say he's the only Mexican that performed?
both.
Did he perform? Was he supposed to perform?
He did perform, yeah.
He did
Oh, he
perform.
did?
Mhm.
And I didn't see him perform because I caught it late.
I saw
but
the clip.
I saw
I didn't even see that
a
clip. What the
picture
fuck?
of someone posting that he performed.
Do you think it had something to do with it being Juneteenth?
I don't understand. I thought Juneteenth was like on the 16th or something like that. It's on June 19th.
The man doesn't even know when Juneteenth is.
It was Juneteenth yesterday.
Yeah, it was Juneteenth. Facts.
I respect it.
Do you think that had something to do with it?
Has something to do with what? The fact that they threw the show that day? Or that there was no Mexicans on stage?
There you go. Do you think it was supposed to be like?
First of all, let me start off by saying congratulations to Kendrick Lamar and all of the wonderful individuals that performed last night.
Hell yeah, shut him up.
Now I try to clean it up.
So I'm not trying to go racial with it, but I will say.
Oh, we're just picking each other.
Oh, now he's not trying to go racial. When he points out, oh, you know it was Juneteenth. You think it was Juneteenth? He had a lot of black folks on stage to celebrate Juneteenth. Oh, you know, shout out to Kendrick Lamar. I'm not trying to go racial. Oh, now you're trying to clean it up, huh?
Like picking each other's brains apart.
Although it was Juneteenth, and I believe that's in remembrance of the massacre. I don't want to be wrong, but is it in Tulsa or in Selma?
I don't even know.
Or
I don't even know. This guy's talking about, I don't want to be wrong, but isn't Juneteenth about a massacre in Tulsa? And the other dude's like, I don't even know. But you're complaining about not being on stage during a Juneteenth celebration. You don't even know what Juneteenth is about. No, it wasn't about the Tulsa, Oklahoma massacre. It was about freedom from slavery. He doesn't even know what Juneteenth is about. And the other dude doesn't either. He said, I don't even know. They don't even know.
place over there. I could be wrong, and I hate to be wrong, but I know it's in remembrance of a massacre that took place, right?
No, it's not right.
I'd like to say that the Mexican people have been persecuted in this wonderful land for a long, long, long time.
Shut up. Shut up. Oh, Mexicans were prosecuted too. Who cares? This isn't about you. Juneteenth is specific. We see, this is what I mean by tethering. This is textbook, the definition of tethering. Juneteenth is specific to the foundational black Americans, the only group in America who survived, keyword survived slavery in America. Juneteenth is about our freedom. But see, according to them, we can't have anything specific for us. Forget reparations. We can't even have a holiday specific to us without another group saying, who doesn't even know what the holiday is about, saying, oh, well, we were persecuted too, so we should be included in your festivities. Listen, everything isn't about you. See, black Americans, one thing about us, we don't go to other people's countries and put our nose into their business. We don't go to other people's countries and say, oh, y'all don't deserve reparations. Y'all don't deserve justice. We went through a lot, so we've been through just as much as you. We don't go to other people's countries and do that. But the tethers do. The tethers do. See, we paved the way for these folks. They come here and they denigrate us. They crap on us and they get mad if we get anything to ourselves. They believe it's the entitlement for me. These tethers believe that they're entitled to everything that black Americans get for ourselves. Foundational black Americans celebrate Juneteenth because it's a holiday for freedom. It's special because it's shouting out and saluting and uplifting the freedom from slavery, not the Tulsa, Oklahoma massacre, as this guy says. The other guy said, oh, I don't even know what Juneteenth is about. And yet they think that they deserve a seat at the table, a stand on a person on stage, representation on stage. But they don't even know what the holiday is about. That's what I mean by tether. And like I said, this whole video was supposed to be me uplifting the immigrants who come here and act as riders, the immigrants who come here and act as supporters. You know, like I said, I live in DC. The majority of my friends are second generation, if not first generation immigrants. I've got a lot of Haitian friends, a lot of Cameroonian friends, a lot of Ethiopian friends. I got a lot of friends, and a lot of them are riders. Most of them, every one of them. supports reparations and believes that we deserve it. Every one of them believes that we deserve it. So I'm not saying that all immigrants are tethers. But the problem is these tethers are loud. These tethers are loud and they're active. Whereas I tried to find videos. I was even late tonight because I didn't want to go live without having some videos of the immigrants who were supporting reparations, who were supporting the Black Americans. And I couldn't find one. I spent like an hour and a half watching Lord Jamar videos because I thought surely at least Lord Jamar, he's been on Tariq Nasheed's documentaries. I was like, surely at least Lord Jamar, he's an islander, right? At least Lord Jamar would have something positive to say on reparations. I was looking. That's just one example, but I was looking through multiple videos, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. I was looking and I couldn't find a video to share of the immigrants actually supporting reparations because they don't qualify. See, and that's the thing about it. That's the thing about it. Black Americans, we support people even when it doesn't benefit us. We supported Ethiopia. That's why I started off this video with showing the long lines of Black Americans who were signing up, volunteering to go to war against Italy on behalf of Ethiopia, a country that they had never been to, a country that they were not born in. Black Americans were ready to go to war and fight and die and kill on behalf of people that just on the basis that they're melanated like us. And yet these other groups, these tethers come here, undermine us, and the immigrants, the good folks who come from other countries are totally silent. So this is a call to action, man. This video is a call to action. I'm encouraging the good immigrants, the immigrants who are riders, the immigrants who do recognize the struggle of the foundation of Black Americans, the need for reparations, repair, and restitution for the previous historical and ongoing psychological, economic, intentional deprivation which we have undergone. The good immigrants who recognize our claims for justice, y'all need to be more vocal. Y'all need to get more involved. Just like they got blacks for Trump, we need blacks. We need immigrants for reparations. We need a coalition here. We need more folks who don't necessarily qualify for the benefits, who are just riders on the sake of what's right. We're the immigrants who are standing up just on the basis of, hey, this is just right. This is just. Every other group who is undergone, think about the Japanese, think about the Jewish, think about the Native Americans, think about all the other groups who have received reparations. There needs to be a much more vocal group of immigrants who are supporting reparations and supporting us Black Americans as we have done for them. Why don't I see Ethiopians for reparations? I can show you a video with long lines of Black Americans going to fight on behalf of Ethiopia. How come the Ethiopians aren't shouting out, hey, Ethiopians for reparations? I can show you Gil Scott Aaron. I can show you Black Americans drawing attention to fight apartheid in South Africa. How come I'm not seeing, Africans for reparations? Why is that not a thing? I can show you video after video of these Caribbean folks coming over, winning Juneteenth scholarships, having Juneteenth celebrations. Why don't I see Caribbeans for reparations? See, because Black Americans, we're not going to go to the Caribbean and say, oh, CARICOM doesn't deserve reparations. Understand, Black Americans aren't the only ones fighting for reparations. CARICOM, the Caribbean community, is fighting for reparations in Jamaica, in Virgin Islands, in Barbados, in the Bahamas. The Caribbeans are fighting for reparations from the British, right? Black Americans aren't going to the Caribbean countries and saying y'all don't deserve reparations. If anything, we would support y'all. We would support CARICOM getting reparations from the British. So why is it that when y'all come here, all of a sudden the tethers are loud and the riders are silent when it comes to the immigrant community? Huh? Now, before we close up here, let me read a couple more of these comments. Salute and shout out to everyone getting active. If you've made it this far in the video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button to support the channel. And Be sure, if you haven't already, to subscribe to the channel. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. I appreciate everyone who's been rocking with me tonight and made it this far into the video. Hit the thumbs up button. It boosts us in the algorithm, and it's free. Without further ado, let's read some of these comments. Shout out to Brandon Sophia. All right. Shorty is kind of vocal here. Let me see what he has to say. All right. Brandon Sophia says, a lot of the immigrants overall are lovers in their country, so they have serious self-hate and self-esteem issues. And FBA, I admit, restore much of their superiority attitudes. Okay. Not lovers. Oh, losers. Oh, okay. This last comment says a lot of immigrants overall are losers in their country, so they have serious self-hate and self-esteem issues. A lot of them are, but a lot of them aren't. A lot of them are, but a lot of them aren't. As someone who's lived in another country, multiple other countries, I can say that it takes a lot to move to another country, especially where you don't speak the language, where you don't know anybody. It takes a lot to do that. It takes a lot to do that. And these folks, what they do, what they have, I say that they have, like you said, superiority complexes. They come here and they think that they're better because they've done something to get here. Right? They come here and they don't compare themselves to the exceptional Black Americans. They come here and compare themselves to the lowest common denominators. We've got tons of Black American doctors, lawyers, engineers, astrophysicists, scientists, IT professionals. We've got a strong and robust class of educated Black women. We've got high education standards. We've got entertainers, athletes, comedians, singers. We've got multimillionaires and billionaires. But the immigrants don't come over here and compare themselves to that part of our demographic. The immigrants that come over here, they don't compare themselves to our doctors and our lawyers. They come here and compare themselves to our homeless. And they forget the fact that their homeless are still in their home country. See, the foundational Black Americans, we didn't flee to another country. We didn't go to another country and compare ourselves and compare ourselves to the homeless in another country. When I was in Mozambique, I didn't look down on the folks who were living in houses without walls. You heard me? Houses without walls. I went to people's houses, ate there and slept in houses that didn't have ceilings. People had metal slabs that if I did a military press, if I raised the roof dancing, I could lift the ceiling off of their house. I slept and ate food, broke bread with people who were living in homes like that, and not once did I judge them. Not once did I say, "Oh, this is due to your laziness." No, Mozambique is one of the poorest countries in Africa, in large part thanks to the colonization from Portugal. From Portugal. So when I go there and I see the poverty and destitution, I see it and I think of all of the pain that has been inflicted by the Portuguese. I don't go there and say, "Oh, y'all are just lazy and you need to work harder." Right? But the immigrants, they come here and be those who have experienced some measure of success. They don't compare themselves to us who also have measures of success. Everyone in my family is successful. Everyone in my family is successful. Mom's a doctor, dad's an architect, sister's a doctor, other sister has been a homeowner since the age of 23. Myself, I'm working in IT. I don't even like to put my personal business out there, but with or without this YouTube, I'm making six figures. Everyone in my family is successful. Praise God. All praise to the Most High. All praise to the Most High. Everybody in my family is successful, but these immigrants don't come over here and compare themselves to us. They come over here and compare themselves to folks like my brother who has sickle cell. Right? Everyone in my family, and who is passed. If they were to compare themselves to someone in my family, they wouldn't compare them to my sister who's a doctor. or my mom who's a doctor, or my dad who's an architect, or myself working in IT, they're going to compare themselves to my brother who has sickle cell, who's died, right? They're going to compare themselves to the least of these instead of comparing themselves to the most of these, and then take some pride in that as if they're doing something, forgetting the fact that the folks who were suffering in your own country, you just left them behind. You just left them behind. You come to America and you look at black folks, the few who are living under a bridge who are homeless, and you compare yourselves to the homeless in America and forget the homeless population in your native country. How many homeless people are there in Mexico? How many homeless people are there in Venezuela? How many homeless people are there in Brazil, Chile, Peru, Honduras? But you don't want us to compare ourselves to them. You want us to compare ourselves to the greatest that you all have to offer, while you compare yourselves to the worst that we have to offer. That's where a lot of the confusion comes from. Going back to the comments, okay, Brandon, what's he saying? They get in trouble and need a lot of competent members of African Americans. I think that those that are illiterate should engage African Americans more and show support for reparations. Absolutely, we're in agreement. And greater freedom of FBA African Americans. Kendrick Lamar was unfair to his non-black fans on Juneteenth. I don't support his actions. Explain to me how so. Give me more information on that, Brandon, Sophia. I don't. What is it? What is it that you disagree with? I believe these Hispanics, as you call tethers, learn a lot from African Americans, and they just express their appreciation differently, which some African Americans perceive as an insult. No, no, absolutely not. Look, Black Americans, we're not dumb. Black Americans, we're not stupid. We know when we're being insulted. It's not, oh, they actually are proud of us and we're just perceiving it wrong. No, no. When this woman, Valentina Gomez, comes to office, she comes to America from a foreign country, and she says that if we don't like America, we can get out. Tell me how this is. Tell me how this is me misunderstanding and perceiving it's an insult when actually it's appreciation. Listen to this rant and tell me where the appreciation is.
People asking for reparations. Reparations from slavery and black victimization is about to be shoved down our throats for the most wretched holiday in America. BLM raised millions, but what did they do for black lives? It is outrageous to see people asking for reparations even though they never went through slavery. These ungrateful people should be celebrated because
These
they are
ungrateful
the
people.
greatest nation to ever exist. Here's a tip. If you don't like America, kindly get the fuck out.
And she's telling us to get out. She's telling us to get out. This woman can barely speak English. This woman can barely speak English. She's calling us ungrateful in the country that we built and telling us to get out of the country which we built. That's not us confusing appreciation and misunderstanding her appreciation and perceiving it as an insult. No, she is insulting us actively. She is calling us ungrateful for not appreciating the country that we built. Look, she has a reason to be appreciative because she was not born here. She and her family did not build this country. If my dad builds a house and someone else steals it without compensation and I fight to get my house back, you can't say I'm being ungrateful. You can't say I'm being ungrateful. Let me give you an example. If my dad builds a house and I'm living in it, and I say yes, I'm fighting. I've got my house and I'm fighting for more. That's not me being ungrateful to my dad. Whereas if you are living in my dad's house, you're not my dad's kid. My dad allowing you to be in this house, you should be grateful that he is allowing you into the house. That's a totally different situation than someone who is descendant of the homeowners. You being an immigrant, you are being a guest in the house. Me as a foundational black American, I am a descendant of the homeowner. That's the difference. So no, I don't think that we're just confusing their appreciation and misunderstanding it as an insult. No, it is an insult. She should be appreciative to be here because she is being allowed into this country. Foundational Black Americans aren't being allowed in this country. Foundational Black Americans built this country. There's a difference. It's good that these immigrant friends honor your opinion and views and remain friends with you. The world is getting smaller thanks to FBA black folks like you. I agree. Again, I don't want, because it's so evident and they're being so loud, I have to address the tethers. But I don't want to alienate the good immigrants who recognize the claims for justice that foundational black Americans have historically made. I'm saying I'm calling on the good immigrants, the folks who are for justice and happen to be from other countries, to be more vocal. They need to make their support more vocal. That's what I'm saying. So wow, great to hear you and your family are successful. Oh yeah, praise God. All praise to the Most High. She is not a fan of Kendrick Lamar, but those Hispanics on that radio show are. He should include them in his Juneteenth celebration. Why? 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 Why should he include? He should include who he wants to include in his Juneteenth celebration. That's what I mean as far as entitlement. Kendrick Lamar has no obligation to include anybody in his Juneteenth celebration. If he's having a Juneteenth celebration and he chooses to celebrate with his black homies, his black crew, let him do that. Juneteenth is about freedom and is about the freedom for black Americans. It's not about Hispanics. If he doesn't want Hispanics on stage, that's his prerogative. That's his choice. That's his choice. He has no obligation to let other people share his stage and share his light. No, that's entitlement. Kendrick Lamar is not trained in nuclear science, so his fans are not as sophisticated as you think. Fair enough. They should be allowed to celebrate with him. They're welcome to celebrate from the audience. Hey, they bought their ticket. They're welcome to celebrate and listen to the music. They're welcome to enjoy and consume, but they are not. Kendrick Lamar is not obligated to allow anybody on his stage. And you just saying it twice. That doesn't explain to me why. Why would he be obligated to allow other people on the stage? If he's having a moment to celebrate Juneteenth, then that's his choice. Why would he be forced to do anything else? All right, shout out to Brandon Sophia. And that's going to be it for the. Oh, but before we go, shout out to Brandon Sophia. I appreciate your comments. I think you're running, though. I think you're running because you're unable to give me a reason as to why Kendrick should allow anyone else on stage. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. But shout out to Brandon Sophia. I appreciate you rocking with me on tonight's video. You dropped a lot of good comments, and sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree. But that's one thing I love about this channel. It's all in good faith, right? I respond to all my comments, and we can get it in. We can hash out our disagreements, and we can come to consensus when and where we can. Now, as always, this is a sponsored video, so shout out and salute to the sponsors of today's video. This is a sickle cell PSA. This is a sickle cell PSA trying to spread awareness and spread informational tips to those suffering from sickle cell. We know that sickle cell disproportionately affects foundational black Americans, black people in particular. So I think it's very important to have this pro-black channel sponsored with this type of content. So salute to our sponsors. Check this out.
How are the exercise programs for the sickle cell patients coming along?
Unfortunately, not too well. Sickle cell disease patients tend to shy away from exercise because of the increased risk of triggering a crisis, and that accounts for more than 230,000 sickle cell disease-related U.S. hospital admissions, costing roughly $2.4 billion.
I know. A deficiency in physical activity can exacerbate cardiovascular efficiency, given the already impaired capacity of sickle cell to transport oxygen, and any further decrease in oxygen delivery can precipitate more severe health complications, which could include acute chest syndrome and community-acquired pneumonia.
Yeah. Looks like we just have to do a better job at getting the word out to the sickle cell community. Healthcare providers must do more to effectively communicate to the sickle cell community. We can use social media campaigns, include exercise and treatment plan recommendations, share sickle cell patient success stories who have benefited from regular exercise, and much more. We must educate, advocate, and promote the benefits of exercise for overall health and well-being. Let's commit to spreading the word.
Boom! Brr, 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 brr. Hey, y'all check it out. One day I'm gonna have the soundboard. I'm gonna have to upgrade this. I'm gonna upgrade. So y'all rock with me. Y'all rock with me. Right now, I'm just here in my office making this content. But I'm telling you, we're gonna continue to rock on this channel, and the quality is only going to get better and better. But salute to the sponsors of tonight's video. It is our job, especially as Black media, which I consider myself in this channel. This is Black media. It is our responsibility to continue to educate and advocate on behalf of Black folks, whether that be on the reparations tip or whether that be in healthcare, people suffering from sickle cell. It is important that we educate and advocate healthy lifestyles as far as exercise, involvement in exercise, different forms of low intensity exercise for people suffering from sickle cell, and shining a light on the different types of struggles that are unique to our lineage and to our race, our group. This is Black media, and it's my job to educate and keep these type of things in the public discourse. A lot of people aren't talking about sickle cell. I haven't seen a lot of videos where people making content shining any type of light on sickle cell. So that's one thing I'm proud of on this channel. We're able to spread the word, spread a positive message as far as not only reparations but healthcare and a wide range of issues that we're facing as Black people here in America. With that being said, once again, to all the immigrants, this is not a video trying to bash immigrants. I'm trying to specify that there is a difference between immigrants and tethers. I recognize and know that a lot of immigrants do come here with good intentions. A lot of immigrants just come here trying to keep their head down and provide for their families, and that's okay. If you don't know enough about this struggle, just be quiet. Just be quiet and say nothing. Just be quiet and say nothing. But when I see folks like running for office who aren't even from this country and they're building their entire campaign off of doing nothing but denigrating foundational Black Americans, I don't like to see that. I don't like to see that. And that's tether behavior. And that has to be called out and that has to be checked. Alright guys, that's going to be it for this video. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button on your way out to support the channel and boost us in the algorithms. Helps us spread the message and spread awareness on these topics that we've talked on tonight. If you've made it this far in the video and you haven't already, be sure to smash the subscribe button for more content just like this. We're talking about reparations, news, politics, current events, hip hop, sports, wide range of issues and topics. We're talking about healthcare. We're talking about a wide range of issues and topics. So come on back for more content just like this. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.